We are live. This is the market update. I am your host, Bill Noble. I am back. Now, you know who else is back? The sell the rally guys, the get ready for the next leg of the bear market guys. Are they going anywhere? No, not. They're not going anywhere. They're going to sell rallies. They're going to be bearish. They're going to do their thing. Now, speaking of bearish, rumor has it it's the end of the world. I heard from Ray Dalio that everything is ending. The dollar is ending. The unipolar world is ending. The current monetary order is ending. We're going into a recession. Everything's going to zero. You know what? I don't think so. Because if that whole rigmarole winds up being wrong, and really what happens is you vent the pressure in the system through Bitcoin, then you got yourself a crypto rally that could catch people off guard, because now the market is clearly boring you, right? First, it hammered you, and now it's boring you. And I would encourage you to not get bored out of the market, because I'm still wondering what everyone's worried about. Like, everyone's worried about the trade war. Everyone's worried about the Chinese. The Chinese are broke and they're going to cave, right? And the Iranians are going to cave because the Chinese can't handle a disruption in their oil supply at all. There cannot be a geopolitical conflict involving the Iranians. There cannot be, period, right? Because that could disrupt China getting oil. That's it. So deals could get made. And everybody was like, well, I can't be a contrarian because, this is a disaster. Really? Okay. Now, if there is something negative out there in the world, people got so hopped up on Bitcoin that Coinbase made a Bitcoin commercial. Cringe. And that might be why the market stinks, because, that's never good when that happens. But the case for crypto gets better every day. And of course, believe we have Jerome Powell this week. So everyone thinks the world revolves around what he does. I disagree. The market sets rates, and Powell is going to probably do his usual do nothing speech. And then crypto will most likely start a rally in advance of whatever he says, because whatever he says is wrong. Honestly, if he cuts rates, he's admitting that there are weak spots. If he doesn't cut rates, he's an idiot. Either way, crypto goes up. Spoken like a crypto live streamer, right? All right. Don't go anywhere, because we're going over the news, going over some key charts, right? We're going to definitely be looking at SUI, because that's much higher this morning. Something going on there. All right. We have SG. SG is here. Welcome. The original guy on the stream. Ben from New Zealand, right? Yav, Miguel, Vanessa, welcome. Tooth, what's up? Lee Menzies, Taz Pinballs, Zepedas, Tyson, Tyler Hall, Railroaded, Tim Gonzalez. I think Ben may be from Australia. Wow, I'm such an American. I got to look up the flags. Wherever you are, sir, down under, we welcome you to the show. Okay, news, let's go. Okay, so basically, let's just take everything that everyone says about economics and tell them that they're wrong and they should buy Bitcoin. So in case you can't tune in for the rest of the show, that's basically what we're doing today. So this guy is, this is an economics guy, and he says jobs are booming, right? Everything is hot and they're not government jobs. Well, okay, I agree. Everybody was all euphoric about the orange man getting in, right? And then everybody got negative. So everybody got hired, and then other people may decide to start doing layoffs, right? All I know is this crazy sentiment where everyone gets euphoric on one hand in January and everyone thinks it's the end of the world in April. Neither are the case. How's the job market doing? I don't know. Without government hiring and all these CEOs going, well, there's so much uncertainty now, we can't do anything. Whatever. Okay. Job market could be softer. If job market is softer, that's really not the issue. The issue is how does it affect housing, right? There's no bid for a house. Nobody can afford it. Rates are too high. Even if the Fed cuts, rates are still too high because they haven't created credibility around spending cuts. So what did I just say? You didn't understand it. I bet. Maybe you did. Maybe you didn't. All I know is whether the jobs market is good or whether the jobs market's not good, housing is going to have a problem. The longer the Feds leaves rates where they is, or the bond market leaves rates where it is, the bigger that mess is going to be. And when that happens, that's the dawn of Bitcoin. It's not a new monetary order. It's as old as the hill. It's the Bitcoin standard book. It's boring, right? It's like, hey, give me a hot coin idea. Bitcoin? I'm like, oh God, that's so boring, right? That's what you said in 2020 and 2021. Not this time. Not this time. Bitcoin is still the forgotten idea. Still. Okay, so with that said, Coinbase has made a new Bitcoin commercial, which I'm sure is very cool. It's just, no commercials. I hate commercials. I don't like commercials. I don't like basketball stadiums. I want Peter Schiff on the tape hating it. That's the recipe for the moonshot. Now, the ultimate pain trade, says my former boss at Goldman. So, here's a stupid question. What happens if tech stocks are in a range, right? Like they're way too high, they crash, everyone says they're going to zero, and then they go back up and they find this range and they bounce around the range, right? Everything crashed, then the earnings were okay. And now everyone's probably the sell the rally guys are going to come in and try to press it down, which could affect crypto. But stocks are in a range. The ultimate pain trade. I have to buy. That was January. I have to sell. That's April. Everybody in a range. The reason it's a range is because everyone sells at the low and buys at the high. And you fall into the hands of predators who are just taking advantage of these emotional swings in a confined space. Notice Group has got all kinds of live streams, all kinds of traders who love setups, right? Run up to the top at resistance, go through, come back down, everyone sell, right? Same thing on the downside, right? They find a support level, they go through it, they run the stops, and they come back through it, and then you go with it, right? You're just taking advantage of everybody's emotions, and that's what's happening. Now, when people get emotional, they forget the main investment theme, which is Bitcoin, AI, and then altcoins follow Bitcoin and the AI narrative, right? Tokenization of assets is coming to ETH. Legacy had them, they were scared out of their pants not too long ago. Also a reminder, not too long ago, it was crypto winter. Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think so. Even though, again, you have to respect the sell the fact crowd, right? Now, here we go. Doomberg. Strategic uncertainty in U.S. trade strategies toughens Fed's job. God. What is the Fed's job anyway? What is their job? To fight inflation and defend the currency. Gee, how's that going? That's supposed to be their job. The Fed doesn't care about you, right? They're terrible at their job. They're probably super political. Everyone thinks they should be independent because, we don't want anybody influencing what they have to say, when they probably already have their own view or they've already been influenced. So Fed independence, it's a myth, and who cares whether they're independent or not? Are they competent? Strategic uncertainty. What? Because the orange man decided to drop the gloves and pick a fight? What did you think he was going to do? Go in the White House and play golf? Seriously, what did you think he was going to do? He told you what he was going to do, and he did it. And everyone lost their mind. Now it's strategic uncertainty. Now no CEO can do anything. Oh, no, we can't do anything. Remember that guy from last week? I'm 95% cash. Okay, bro. You're 95% cash. That's really interesting. And that's a great way to get on the wave of the future. Is what would happen if things like Bitcoin, the AI narrative, especially inside of crypto, was like this nascent, cheap sector that you just skipped because you're going to the hedge fund cocktail party and tell everyone that the world is ending and you're in cash. You and everybody else. So when Bitcoin leaves, it's going to leave without them. And the same thing with the rest of crypto. Voters see Trump as a failure and a would-be dictator with honeymoon over, says MSN, right? So our friends on the left are all wound up. Orange Man's approval rating went down because the stock market went down. My heart goes out to all the stunk babies. Not. Look, here's the deal. The Orange Man is making decisions, and everyone thinks it's all going to end badly. All right, that's fine. But what happens if it doesn't? This is the question we need to be asking ourselves, particularly after Bitcoin said, we don't care what's going on in the equities. We want to go up anyway. No one has considered if you add that to, gee, maybe this thing with the tariffs and the Orange Man, maybe it was just a louder version of what happened in 2017 and 2018. Has anyone actually stopped to consider that the guy might actually wind up coming out of this okay? That some of these decisions weren't that bad? I'm just saying, right? Everyone thinks it's the end of the world. Everybody thinks this is bad. Okay, great. You don't need to watch a show to know that. You can watch Sunday morning talk shows. My job is to say, okay, well, what happens if that's not the case? It's Fed week with interest rates in focus. Here's what to expect. Here's what I expect. Everybody to think that what the Fed does actually matters in this particular environment. Like when they're tightening, it matters. But in this environment, rates are too high and they won't cut because they think inflation could go higher. And the general public will probably go along with that, I guess, because they think inflation's going higher. You realize inflation expectations have never, it's like the last time it was high was like when oil doubled in front of the Gulf War in 1990 when I was in college. Everyone thinks inflation is going to explode. Okay. Inflation was going to explode 4 years ago when they printed $14 trillion in 1 month. That was more money than they printed in the last 12 years. The central banks did $14 trillion in 1 month. So that puts you 4 years of hot inflation. Now everyone's like, oh my God, inflation. What to expect this week? What's Powell going to do? Who cares? Who cares? We no longer mind because he no longer matters. I'm telling you, he doesn't matter. And even if he does, they're going to put another guy in there to go on TV that does nothing but criticize him until he quits. And I think the most bullish thing that could ever happen is that he leaves rates unchanged and quits. Iran says deal with the United States is achievable. Huh. What do you know? Because the Chinese do not want a disruption in their oil flow. They don't. No one does. No one wants that. No one wants war over there. Some country does, but we don't. They don't. Right? The Chinese and the Russians. Nobody wants world war. No one wants that. And if they say they want it, they don't. They don't. Right? So, okay. So let's figure this out. Like I said, what happens if it's not a disaster? Just a question. Now, ETH holders refuse to sell. Accumulating address lower their cost basis. On March 10th, Wales held 15 million ETH. By May 3rd, this rose to 19 million ETH, a 22% increase. Behavior reflects structural conviction and clear expectations of short-term appreciation. Right. In other words, selling ETH at the 2017 high doesn't really make sense, especially if Vitalik has the ability to pivot more towards Solana-ish features. At the same time, BlackRock comes in and wants to tokenize assets, right? Solana is great for a lot of things. And I think Solana is going a lot higher, right? But that doesn't mean that, investment banks are going to run, tokenized assets on the meme coin platform. Now, you might run stable coins on Solana all day long, but there's still a use for ETH, and ETH is too cheap. All altcoins are too cheap. Solana is too cheap. You want to know why Sui's going up? Because Sui is too cheap. It's too cheap. That's why it goes up. Hartnett, market now expecting Trump pivot, lower tariffs, lower rates, lower taxes. Okay, so this would account for the stock market rally. And I don't think anyone has asked themselves, they unwound the rally, but what happens if you get lower tariffs, lower rates, and lower taxes? I think crypto goes straight up under those circumstances. It's funny how the equity market's trading it, but we're all just sitting around staring at each other. It's funny, right? Oh, the current S&P winning streak will end in very short order. Huge winning streak, 9 days in a row. Well, of course it is. And of course, I do understand that it smells like a bear market rally. Bear market rallies pull people in, and because they make you look like it's over. They make it look like it's over, right? But I don't know, man. Bitcoin went down 25%. It went from 100 to 77. Now it's back at 94. Really? Is that a bear market rally, or is that just normalization? That's what I think. Now, again, stocks could be in a range, right? It's like all the way down, all the way up, all the way down, all the way up. And if they do it all the way down, that's an opportunity, right? It's an opportunity in crypto if they hit stocks again, right? Everything is lining up. Tokenization is having its breakout moment, right? BlackRock filed to create a digital ledger technology shares. This is going to happen. And it's going to happen on big layer ones. ETH, Solana, might be some XRP action, Sui, Polkadot. BlackRock's doing this. And now they have to do it faster. Because that day when the world stood still and the treasury market almost collapsed, I don't think anyone's going to forget that this year. If they have a plan, they have to execute it. And that plan is constructive crypto. China steps up its game in the global AI race. Okay, well, what does this have to do with crypto? Folks, you got to find the robotics narrative. So far, that's artificial superintelligence token. And you got to find decentralized cloud. You got to find DPIN. You got to find render. You got to find all of these plays. Tau, Fartcoin if you must, antivirus. You got to find AI. Because, big corporations, big tech companies have already said, whatever we're spending on data centers, it's not a one-off. If anything, what we're spending on that stuff is going to accelerate. They are building so much stuff. Like that's what it is helping jobs. Investing in this space, right? When it takes off the next time in crypto, it will be for real. I've had guys tell me that the robot trade is $10 trillion. That the robot market is worth $10 trillion. So if you can get invested in robotics now, plus if you can figure out how to do it in crypto, I can't believe no one thinks you're not going to have AI agents inside robots and no one wants to do that trade. Can artificial general intelligence think like a human? Well, folks, I don't know. And this goes to, watching 80s and 90s science fiction movies like The Matrix and The Terminator. And I don't know. I think they could develop this right now if they had the hardware. They just don't have the hardware. That's the problem. Now, when they do it, what's going to happen to you? What's going to happen to your life? What's going to happen to your job? I don't know. I don't. But I do know that the thing that can help protect you from all that is too cheap. Bitcoin is too cheap. ETH is ridiculously cheap, right? XRP should probably be worth $1 trillion market cap, at least. It's too cheap. And it can help you, unlike Jerome Powell, who wants you to eat bugs. Okay, so we're wearing glasses now instead of phones. How nice. How nice. Again, who's on your side? You are. Samsung and Google are also developing AR glasses together. You know, I brought this up before. These characters, they own all the digital real estate. Like if you want to go buy a hammer and you're not driving to Home Depot, you have to go in Amazon's digital world and get a hammer. They own e-commerce, right? The metaverse, gaming, right? Apple and your cell phones, they own all of this digital real estate. So, are they going to have complete control of everything, or is there going to be, I don't know, a resistance movement, right? These guys are not going to stop. So why are we stopping? Why are we stopping? Why are we getting bearish just because the market went sideways? Okay. The core tension, the majority of people I speak with still expect a U.S. recession. The Fed may not budge anytime soon, right? And, you know, U.S. equity market cap over GDP is excessive. So the stock market's overvalued. Powell is not that smart. And everyone thinks we're going into a recession. Okay, great. So isn't that why Satoshi Nakamoto wrote the Bitcoin white paper? In other words, I do sound a little bit like a zealot today. But again, Bitcoin is attached to the AI trade. And Bitcoin and the AI trade can pull select altcoins higher. Right? Because if you can sort out what a good project is and get involved, it's going up, right? So Orange Man as a Star Wars character, and we had Orange Man as a religious figure. Again, just remember what these things that he does, his motto is, it doesn't matter whether you win or lose as long as you irritate everybody. Everyone's like, oh my God, this is going to have an outcome. No, it's maybe just noise on the tape on Twitter. Yes, there is a strategy to get our manufacturing base back here. But the reason for that is 5 years from now, it's all going to be done by robots. So we want our factory here run by our robots, not our factory over there run by Chinese robots. Right? That's the whole thing. It's a robot trade. Get the factories over here so our robots can do it. Okay. Trump says, I want crypto. Crypto is important because if we don't do it, China will. That's true. Actually, I think if we don't do it, the Russians are going to do it, right? Because the Russians are really interested in getting, I think, in getting crypto for oil. They're already doing it with the Chinese, right? And of course, the real reason you need crypto isn't because the Chinese are going to do it. The real reason you need crypto is so that you can be a free person. And if I may say so, make a truckload of money. Just an absolute truckload of money because everyone is bearish. Everyone is still bearish. Everyone's talking about the second leg down, and I'm talking about the second or third leg up in the bull market. Okay, so at some point, he will relax on China. Yeah, I know. Until they see it his way or there's enough pressure on their currency to where, you know, they have a slight pause in their 50-year effort to undermine us and take us out. Seriously, that's what they have. So why is the Orange Man pushing on that a bad thing? Why is that the end of the world? Is it? I'm just saying, is it? And if the world doesn't end, where will crypto, altcoins, and memes eventually be? Second quarter GDP, we believe inventory investment was understated. Okay? So, inventory investment remains solid, meaning they're building data centers, right? They're building stuff. Can't have a recession if they're building everything. Again, the tech and AI trade out of the news. El Salvador stacking. Okay? Remember, don't be the Bitcoin pizza guy. What happens if there's AI small caps and mid caps out there and you unload them out of frustration and it's the next 100x? This guy won't stop, right? People are immune to this. People don't understand that what this guy is doing with his company makes his company totally unique. He becomes the Warren Buffett of this era. As he says, Berkshire Hathaway is 20th century Bitcoin, right? In other words, Warren Buffett used to be Bitcoin. Now he's Bitcoin. Bitcoin is Bitcoin. Look at this. Bitcoin is now at global currency exchanges in airports. What do you know? They must watch the show. It's a part of the foreign exchange market, right? Oh, Coinbase commercial, stop it. Okay, author of the Bitcoin Standard. Everybody can save in a form of money that is resistant to inflation and printing. People don't understand this. They forgot. They forgot that, printing is bad. Everyone's like, ooh, the Fed's going to print and moon my bags. Well, maybe. Maybe they have to come in and do that when housing cracks. But the fact that they had to do it to begin with is reason to explore alternatives, even if the market's putting you to sleep. Okay, Senator wants to revive Arizona's bill. It's amazing how these things get worked out. Like at 77, we got to cancel the bill, but at 97, it's much more attractive. Michael Saylor buys another 180 million at Bitcoin at 95. Average price still under 70. Right? He just keeps doing it. Just keeps doing it. And you know what? No one understands it. I really think no one understands what this guy knows. That you're going to have this AI-driven future. You're going to have a problem with fiat currencies, potentially, because they just don't go far enough, or fiat currencies can't adjust. Like, for example, if the dollar can't go lower because nobody wants to buy the yen or the euro, the only solution is Bitcoin moons. Vent the pressure in the system through Bitcoin. Plus, what currency are machines going to use? Stop worrying about tariffs. Worry about, what are the machines going to do? Okay. Warren Buffett holds $348 billion in cash. Since 2022, his cash balance is up $239 billion as he has sold stocks for 10 straight quarters. Okay, great. You're sitting on dollars. Awesome. I'm sure your shareholders are delighted, right? Like, what happens when all these equities guys see a crypto rally that they either can't get involved in or just flat out miss? Right? We have a presidential candidate in South Korea who's into Bitcoin. Vitalik says Ethereum should adopt a protocol similar to Bitcoin. Security, scalability, and efficiency. Oh my God. Somebody finally got a PR person for Vitalik so he can get on the tape and start talking up his coin. Maldives, 9 billion in Bitcoin. I'm sorry, a 9 billion blockchain hub. Small countries are going to start figuring out that they want to be the next El Salvador in a hurry. In a hurry. What do you know? Our friends in New York are out of money. What do you know? Everyone thinks the orange man is wrong about a lot of things, and he might be, right? But the thing is, he has conviction. You don't have to like him. I don't know if the tariff thing is going to work. Yeah, tariffs are generally not a good idea, but the guy has conviction. Where is our conviction? Where is it? Right? Binance partnering with countries. Warren's retirement plan. Fartcoin. Obviously, right? Right? Trump learns from a reporter about what happened with his meme coin after he offered a dinner. And then, of course, the bigger the base, the higher in the space. For one man, one coin, 1 billion. Dying to get us back outside this rising wedge. Didn't happen, right? Or it happened and it failed. Let's hope they hold at 3 million market cap Because guess what, people? I don't know if I showed this or not. The guy's talking now. The guy's talking. What is this going to look like in 6 months? You know what Warren Buffett said? You don't buy based on what's happening now. You buy based on what you think is going to be happening in 6 months. Okay, a public service announcement from SUI, which of course is outperforming today and giving you signals that SUI, if it went to the discount, if it went to the premium zone, it would trade at $5.35. Right? Now, in Bitcoin, this is not the greatest look. You would want to get this restarted soon. That's the bad news. The good news is they were afraid of 100 and 102. So when they eventually get up to this point, because they were afraid of it, they're going to take it out. They're going to take it out. And I personally believe everyone's like, oh, Solana's going to 90. Okay. Well, I guess what? We got support down here at 132, and I don't think there's any resistance until 256. In other words, everyone's like, well, Solana's going to 90, and here comes the next leg down. Okay. So traders will push it. Bitcoin will go to 91. Then what? Then what? I know what'll happen. Everybody will go, see, I told you it's winter. See, it's a bear market rally. They'll all get short at 91, and it'll rip to 102. It's just rip in their face. That's what it feels like is going to happen. They're going to get caught leaning bored or bearish, and then it's just going to rip. Like what? Like I said, what is going to get in the way of Solana? What's in the way? Nothing, right? You have a 13 bottom in ETH that was confirmed last week, right? This whole move below 2,200 in ETH. I mean, that was like the January 2024 low. This is all BS. This is all emotional panic selling. No. And even if you don't buy ETH, look at this. XRP with a 13 bottom on a daily chart. You realize if XRP just did this gliding move for a couple more days, they'll probably have a 13 and a 9 bottom. You know, it held the bottom. It's at the bottom of the range. You know, they tried to take over Circle. They're trying to do something. Hopefully it's not buy Circle, right? Because then they're going to have to dump XRP to pay for it. Why would this not go up? Like, tell me why this is not going to go up, right? American made. They want to IPO. Galaxy is IPOing on NASDAQ, the hedge fund. That's the first big one. Circle probably comes after that, and Ripple's next, right? And then the acquisition spree starts, if not sooner, right? Ripple was like, well, let's buy Circle before they go public. We'll pay less now. I can't come up with a reason to be like, well, you know, maybe you should be careful. I mean, okay, maybe we'll make up a reason why you should be careful. Okay, here is, I don't know. Yeah, okay, here's Bitcoin on the daily chart, right? So technically speaking, if Bitcoin went down again, in order to get the Lux Algo support, Bitcoin would get to 88K, right? So Bitcoin wants to show you sub 90 again. I'll take it. I'll take it. Take it from them. So Bitcoin on a 4-hour chart, right? And I have a really simple question. Now Bitcoin's doing a 23% retrace. In the past, if 94 holds, that's an if 94 holds, okay, when you hold a 23% retracement, that's usually the sign of like a mega trend in equities. Okay. Okay. So I'm gonna do the summary with this chart up. So a lot of times, if they take out 94, they drop to 92. That's the 38% retracement. So here are your levels. 94, 92, and 88. Okay. So bears want to have fun. They want to do 92. Fine. 38% retracements are healthy. 23% retracements are healthy, right? You need a little bit of fear in this market. And I actually think there's a lot of fear in this market because if you look, everyone's like, well, it's over. The fear trade, the pain trade. If it goes up, it's painful. If it goes down, it's painful. What are they doing over there in legacy? I mean, I know this is repetitive, but right, we're going to get bearish because you're negative no matter what. And you still think what Powell says matters. Bitcoin's not done making a point, right? Powell will say something and the algos will trade it. And then I think Bitcoin's going straight up. And it's going to take the whole ecosystem with it because we're just done with this whole charade. We're done. It's that simple. It's not a decoupling. It's like we're Dunsky. Done. Okay. That is the market update for today. We will see you tomorrow.